I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe because this is a show by the people, for the people, and you, my friends, are my people. So jump in, comment, participate in our community because that's just the way we like it. In today's program, Shohei Ohtani picking up right where he left off in 2024. Does he ever do anything that isn't incredible? We'll discuss it. In TikTok, the clock is tick-tocking on TikTok. There is a deadline looming for TikTok to remain available in the United States, and there may be a hero without a cape who could be coming to the scene to save TikTok for all of us. We'll talk about that. We've got a lot of tweets from Super 70 Sports sprinkled throughout, of course. But let's begin with Stephen A. Smith talking about the NBA. Stephen A. saying that a Hall of Famer from a past generation, an unnamed Hall of Famer, came to him and said, you know what? Steph Curry is a product of this generation. If he played back in the old days, and we don't know exactly whose old days this player is referring to, how old those days are, he told Stephen A. that Steph Curry would average about 17 points a game. And then he told Stephen A. that Steph Curry can get the hell off of his lawn as well. These kids today running around with their music. Is Steph Curry a product of the modern era? Is it a mirage? Have we been fooled? Let's listen to Stephen A.
I had a Hall of Famer come up to me and said to me, quote, Steph Curry would not have averaged more than 17 points a game. And now obviously, I think that person should have been drug tested when he said that to me. But then I quieted down because he wasn't talking about his skill set. He said, in our era, we would have hurt him. He said, we would have hurt him. He said he would have had to run through picks. He wouldn't have been as protected by the officials. The game is exponentially more physical now than it was then. Remember when he came into the league with the ankle injury? He'd have never recovered from that with us. We'd have made sure they would have tripped him every chance we got. They wasn't talking about basketball. They were talking about this is the elements that come with the game that we had to endure that these guys don't have to even think about.
All right. I got mixed feelings about this. Let's just go ahead and dig into this a little bit, shall we? Let's start with the fact that Steph Curry would have averaged a lot more than 17 points a game in any era. I'm not going to be the hard ass. I'm the 70s guy. I grew up watching 80s basketball. I think 80s basketball is the best version of the NBA there's ever been. I grew up watching 90s basketball as well, which was some rough and tumble shit. But in both of those decades, you had guys fighting. You had guys that people were scared of. Teams had enforcers. You think hockey has enforcers? The NBA had enforcers when I was growing up. And we'll talk about some of those names as I go through this with you. But Steph Curry would have averaged definitely more than 17 points a game. Now, would he have traded some bruises and broken bones for those extra points? Very possibly. Would he have gotten his 25 as easily as he gets his 25 today? No way. But Steph Curry's a historically great player. He would have found a way to have gotten his. I don't have any doubt about that. But would it have been the fun fest that we have in today's game for Steph Curry? No. He would have gotten mugged. He would have gotten absolutely mugged. Would there have been fights? Probably. I was talking to Ronnie T-Shirts on this program recently. He was saying, hey, the Indiana Pacers scored 162 points. And I said, well, what's the big fucking deal? There's somebody every night in the NBA that's scoring 135, 140, 145. Do you see the scores of these games? You think the players have gotten that much better? That suddenly now every other fucking game's 140 to 130? I know some of y'all remember the 90s. You remember Pat Riley's Knicks? You remember Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason? You remember what they did to people? Any of you remember the Washington Bullets? Yeah, I said Bullets from the 1980s. You ever hear of Rick Mahorn and Jeff Rulin, the Beef Brothers? McFilthy and McNasty is what they called those two. If you drove the lane on the Washington Bullets, you were going down to the ground, and you were going down to the ground hard. Yeah, you go to the line and maybe you get your two, but you were paying a price for it with your body, and in an era when nobody had ever heard of or considered load management. Jordan's out there playing 82 a year, going to the bucket, getting yanked down by Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer. Yeah, it took Jordan a while to get past the Detroit Pistons, partly because they tried to commit manslaughter on him about a dozen times a game. And I've tweeted about this before. Jordan would average 50 a night if he played today, if he wanted to. If he wanted to pass, maybe he would have averaged 40 a night. If he wanted to make a point, he would have joined Wilt. Michael Jordan was playing in an era where the scores would come in and you'd be like, oh, well, the Bulls beat the Pacers tonight 89-83. And Jordan had 45 of those. That's the era that we're talking about here. Teams today in the NBA average 114 points a game. 113.8 to be precise. And that's actually down a little bit from the previous two seasons. The last 3 years have been the highest scoring seasons in NBA history since 1969-70. The three highest scoring NBA seasons of my lifetime have been the last 3 years. Jordan's final season, when they beat the Jazz and he made the shot and he posed where it should have ended, because I'm pretending that the Washington Wizards era never happened. That season, teams averaged 95.6 a game. You do the math on this, scoring is up 19% since the Bulls' last championship season. So we can add 20% to what Jordan was averaging in that era by any measure, because teams are scoring 20% more. Are they scoring that much more because they're that much better, or because defense is dead? The rules have all been manipulated to benefit the offense. Guys can carry the ball, take 15 fucking steps. If you're on Reels or TikTok and your algorithm is anything like mine, you'll get these super cuts of NBA guys just fucking traveling. Carrying the ball around with them like they're Walter Payton. Taking steps, stepping around, trying to figure out where they're at, hopping behind the three-point line. Or you get the fuck out of here. Look at Trae Young. Look at this emaciated little seventh grader. You're going to tell me that Jordan and Bird and Magic and Karl Malone and John Stockton and Dominique Wilkins and Isaiah Thomas and David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing, you're going to tell me that they couldn't compete with this guy? They would have all been giving him wedgies. And they weren't even the tough guys. What's Trae Young going to do when he drives down the lane and he meets Rick Mahorn and Jeff Rulin? Or he meets Buck Williams? Or he meets Xavier McDaniel? Xavier McDaniel would have choked him. Do you know how I know that? Because Xavier McDaniel choked people. Take a look at this. We don't have it? Well, take my word for it. We have it. There's Maurice Lucas and Daryl Dawkins squaring off. You didn't want any of either one of those guys. I'll promise you that. Back in my day, the ratio of guys in the NBA who were ready to fight your ass versus the ratio of guys who wanted to talk stuff, the Ja Morants of the world who want to point imaginary guns at your bench and fire them. Man, Maurice Lucas would have grabbed Ja Morant by the neck and he would have thrown him halfway across the arena. And that would have been the last time that an imaginary gun was fired at anybody. Because the smoke was real back in those days. And so were the x-rays that revealed that you had broken bones, and still nobody was thinking about taking a game off because they needed their load managed. Get out of here with this. But Steph Curry, would he have averaged more than 17? Yes, he would average more than 17 a game in the old days. Give me a fucking break. Greatness is greatness, and greatness plays in any era. The greatest of our era, perhaps the greatest of all time, Shohei Ohtani. Bobblehead night at Dodger Stadium, and a good one because they were giving the bobbleheads away to everybody. Have you ever gone to a bobblehead night and you're a little late and it's like, well, tough luck for you. Maybe you can go on eBay and buy one that's been jacked up 3 times more than common sense, and people are buying them. But if you went to this Dodgers game, everybody gets a bobblehead. That's the way it is. No children go home unhappy. And they went home especially happy because what did Ohtani do? Well, he did what Ohtani does. First pitch homer, walk off. Dodgers are 8-0, undefeated, riding high, World Series champions. Ohtani coming off a 50-50 year. Maybe he wants to go 60-60 this year. Would you bet against him? I have said before that he's the best player of my lifetime. I said this in 2022, but I'm not here to tell you how smart I am because I said this in 2022 because I was only observing what was abundantly obvious. It's not like I was making some major breakthrough here. I said the best baseball player of my lifetime. I don't know how long he can keep doing it. Career value is a different thing. You got some of the greatest of all time. You go and you look at the Immortals in Cooperstown. They went 20 plus years of greatness. Availability is an ability. Some guys have shorter careers. Some guys sustain it for 2+ decades. We'll see how Ohtani ages and how many more years he can play like this. But right now, this guy, this minute, I said it in 2022. It's even clearer to me now in 2025 as I talk to you. He's the best that I've ever seen, and I believe that his best is the best that the game of baseball has ever seen. That's right. I think he's better than Babe Ruth. Peak value. Ruth never pitched and hit at the same time. Ruth was a great pitcher. Could he have gone to the Hall of Fame as a pitcher? Probably. You look at what he did in the World Series. You look at his stats. They are what they are. He became the most dominant hitter that we've ever seen, hitting more home runs than entire other teams in some of his seasons. But Ohtani, we're talking about a guy who went 54-59 last year, a guy who has a 15-win season as a pitcher, a guy who's finished in the top 5 in Cy Young voting, a guy who has done it simultaneously. Yeah, he didn't do it last year because of injury, but he's going to be back on the mound in the pretty near future this year. And don't be shocked if in addition to doing the things that we saw him do with the bat last year and the things that we're seeing him do with the bat already this season, don't be surprised if he comes out and goes about 12-3 as a starting pitcher this year and strikes out about 11 or 12 guys per 9 innings. Because I would expect that is going to happen because he is that great. Generational greatness. Get out to the ballpark. Take your kids. This is that guy. We don't see a ton of athletes in this world. There are a lot of amazing athletes, probably more amazing physical marvels than we've ever seen before in the world of sports. With training being what it is, athletes today, bigger, faster, stronger, I don't question it. But having said that, there are precious few that you better go out and see just for the historical context of it. Do not let this man's career pass by without getting out to the ballpark, watching him play, and if you got kids, take them. Because that's something that they'll be able to tell their grandkids one day. I saw that guy. My dad took me to the ballpark, and I saw Ohtani. The Dodgers now 8-0, as I said, off and running. And you look at that roster, how many games can they win? They won 98 last year. I'll take the over on that. Things not going so well for the Atlanta Braves. They're 0-7. Here in Chicago, we're just amazed that the White Sox are in first place. Okay, don't get too excited. They're 2-4. The entire division is sucking. Right now, 2-4 is good enough for first place. You got to love the first week of April. You get weird stuff like that. But enjoy it while you can, White Sox. Although I will say, I'm taking the over. The over this year at one point at the beginning of the year, it was 53.5 games for the White Sox. I mean, you got to take the over on that. 54 and 108 is still pretty fucking bad. Maybe the Braves and any other teams that are struggling. The White Sox, you need all the help you can get on the South Side, guys. Let's face it. Maybe you should start swinging wiffle ball bats for practice. It worked for me when I was a kid. Next time you're out in the store and you see one of these displays, please fucking buy one. Take your kids out in the backyard and play wiffle ball with them. Won't you? We don't see the wiffle ball torpedo bats yet, however. I want the big yellow torpedo. You got to get the red bat for that. We'll see. Red bats for the Braves. The Padres, however, Padres look good too. Over in the NL West, Dodgers-Padres could be an interesting race this year because the Padres haven't lost yet either. They're 7-0. But here's the real thing. Are we going to lose TikTok? Are you worried about TikTok? I know Ronnie T-Shirts is worried about losing TikTok. My kids are worried about losing TikTok. When I look at some of the numbers that we're doing on OutKick with this program over on TikTok, I'm a little worried that we're going to lose TikTok. Because it seems like the TikTok audience likes us, which makes me like the TikTok audience, which makes me hope that the deadline of April the 5th that is upcoming will not mean the end for TikTok in American life. Ownership ban deadline is set for Saturday. I mean, look, guys, I don't want you to panic. It's the day after tomorrow. Okay? What's going to happen? Well, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, perhaps. Could he be the hero that this country needs? Amazon has submitted a bid to acquire TikTok. We'll see if it's accepted. There's no confirmation at this point from any of the folks involved, the Chinese interests that control TikTok. We'll see what happens. But I will now bring in the international streaming star who joins me from Chicago, Illinois, Ronnie T-Shirts. Ronnie, is this going to be the 11th hour move that keeps TikTok percolating for everybody in this country that's addicted to it?
I sure hope so, man. I'm not addicted to it, but it's definitely a part of my life. I mean, I do love the fact.
That's the first thing that every addicted person says about everything. I don't have a problem. It's what they say. I'm not addicted. I'm not addicted to it. Not addicted at all.
I'm fascinated by the fact that some of our best numbers are on TikTok. I mean, we do good on other platforms, but man, our TikTok numbers for this show are really good. But you know, I've told you before, Ricky, I can't tell you how many new artists in terms of music I have discovered on TikTok. And I love the fact that I'll just scroll and I'm like, oh, wow, I like this guy. I like this musician. And then I find them on Spotify and I'm like, oh, I like a lot of their songs. So I love TikTok. I think it is a fantastic, platform. So I hope that something happens.
I'm a Reels guy myself, Ron.
I mean, it's super similar.
Like the Reels.
It's really similar. But I don't know. There's something about TikTok that I don't know. It's definitely addictive. I find myself many a night thinking I'm going to be going to sleep, and then I start going down some rabbit hole, and 2 hours later, I'm at some place that I wasn't expecting to be when I started my journey.
That's just vague and ambiguous enough to make me wonder what it is. Ron, what do you think about the NBA stuff here with the unnamed Hall of Famer who told
That's
Stephen
weird.
A.
I
I
find
get
it
my
weird that he
day.
couldn't name them. It wasn't so controversial that I find it very odd that he couldn't name this Hall of Famer that just happened to come up to him. But dude, I agree with you. The great players, whatever the era is and whatever the style of play and whatever's going on, they'll figure it out, right? They'll figure it out and they'll adapt. The great players do that all the time. Now, you're 100% correct, man. Curry would have to figure out a different way to get his, 25, 26, 27 points a game because it would be more physical. All the hand checking, all whatever, but he'd figure it out. I mean, great players always figure everything out.
Ronnie, in other news, Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, responding to the idea, people, he was asked, like, well, are some of your fans going to be offended by the fact that you guys are going to the White House? Lurie saying, this is just an invitation from the White House. That's all it is. We're not politicizing it in any way. We're just going to the White House to accept the honor. And I've said it before, Ron. I think that's what anybody should do because look, dude, we are never, ever going to be able to bring together our fractured country if we can't at least find some areas of common ground where it's not all how much we can't stand each other. And teams going to the White House and the president getting a jersey to hold up and like, aren't these guys great? It's a pretty harmless, time-honored thing. And I think if we can get back to, regardless of who the president is, teams going and taking their bow and having their moment, it's a healthy thing where at least for 5 minutes, hopefully a few of us can set aside the outrage and just enjoy the recognition of a championship team.
Yeah, man. When we first started talking about this on the show a couple months ago, I said that I wouldn't have wanted to go to the White House if I was on a championship team during the Biden era. And you know what? After listening to some of your takes, I've changed. I do agree with you. It's not about who's in the office at the time. It's about the White House. It's literally the White House, right? It's where our government. So it's our main building, right? For this country. And I've come around on this, and it doesn't matter who the president is, and it doesn't matter what you feel about him. You get to go to the White House, and that's a really cool thing. And everybody who goes is going to get a picture, and you put that picture on the wall, and you have it forever. Not very many people get to go to the White House, and so it's a pretty cool thing. So you've changed my mind. So good job.
See, Ron, this is what we do for each other. You changed my mind on the tush push.
Yeah.
I was just all ready to ban it because I didn't like it or whatever, and you appealed to my reason, Ron.
Yeah.
And you brought me around. So see, we don't just argue with each other. Sometimes we persuade one another. Here's one that's going to be difficult to persuade you or anybody else on, Ron. Gary Player, one of only 5 men who has won the professional Grand Slam. So he is more qualified to speak on this topic than virtually anyone. Only Nicholas, Tiger, Gary Player, Ben Hogan, and Gene Sarazen have won all 4 professional majors. Rory needs the Masters to get it. Jordan Spieth needs the PGA to get it. Gary Player has them all. Listen to this. He says, never mind the Masters, the Open, he means the British Open, is by far the greatest tournament on the planet. I rate the Open 1, the U.S. Open 2, the PGA 3, and Augusta 4. He says that as a 3-time Masters champion. He's got the Masters behind the fucking PGA championship, Ron. I think that's the bottom line here.
Yeah, I think that's the weird one. I don't know exactly what he's using to measure, what criteria he's using to measure. So I can kind of see the fact that, the Masters, and again, are you talking about, the Masters is the only one that that stays. It's the only one that's the same course every year, year in, year out. And so there's something special about that, but there's also something special about, moving the tournaments to different places and all the history at those different places, and looking forward to, oh my gosh, we haven't been to St. Andrews forever, and now we're going to be at St. Andrews, and that's amazing, and it's the birthplace of golf and all those different things. So I do agree, though, the PGA Championship, that kind of doesn't feel as special as the other ones. So I definitely think the Masters
it's the
should
Ringo
be
of majors.
It should be the third at
said
worst,
it many
right? Masters should be the third at worst.
Third at absolute worst.
Yeah.
Look, the PGA is just like, happy to be in the band is what I'm saying. If something has to be fourth, and the PGA's just like, and I'm a major too. Look at me. For him to rank it ahead, I mean, it's interesting, but hard to believe that a 3-time Masters champion would say that. Let me welcome to the program the great Ricardo. Ricky, how are you, brother?
I'll tell you what, if I got $1 for every time I was asked, where's Lucy, I'd buy this channel right now from Clay. So we'd be in business. Good to be back with you, my man.
It is a pleasure to have you on, as always. And look, Ricky, I'm just going to ask you the most obvious question that I could ask you. I'm sure it's one that you have fielded more than a couple of times by now. What is going on with the Torpedo bats? My goodness, the Yankees just get these new bats. They're launching homers everywhere. Poor Nestor Cortez is still picking the shrapnel out of his skin, I believe, right now as we speak. Take us through this a little bit, because I've been a baseball fan my entire life. I think of myself as being a pretty good student of the game. I had never heard the term torpedo bat until last weekend, and now I think I've heard the term about 500,000 times. What is going on with the phenomenon that the New York Yankees have brought to baseball?
It puts a whole new spin on the old term, man the torpedoes. But I tell you what, Ricky, these bats have been around for quite a long time. The only reason this whole thing has blown up the way it has is because Michael Kay and the television crew brought it up on the TV broadcast on Saturday when the Yankees were going bombs away, as you mentioned, against ex-Yankee Nestor Cortez Jr., who, by the way, just to throw in a little fact, 4 pitches thrown by Nestor Cortez, the last one in the World Series last year, and his first 3 pitches this season against the Yankees were all home runs and all hit by MVPs. Freddie Freeman in the World Series, and then you had the 3 right on top, Goldschmidt, Bellinger, and Judge. So 4 pitches in 2 different seasons, World Series, and his first start as a Brewer, 4 homers on 4 pitches against 4 MVPs. But back to the point. The torpedo bats have been around a couple of years. Giancarlo Stanton, who had the best postseason of any Yankee in 2024, he was using the torpedo bats. It was really designed for Anthony Volpe. From everything I've heard, there's an MIT grad, let's just call him Lenny because everybody calls him Lenny, that used to work in the Yankee analytics department, and they figured out that Volpe's contact was a little bit lower near the trademark, near the logo on the bat, so they refigured the inertia where the heaviest part of the concentration of the wood should go, because that's the science today. It's right down to every point of contact. So they developed this bat with Anthony Volpe in mind, and it went from there. But I've read stories this morning about, how the Philadelphia Phillies had a whole batch of them shipped to the ballpark that got there an hour before opening day on Monday. It's now a phenomenon around Major League Baseball. But Ricky, as you and I know, you still have to make contact with the ball. It's still a 95 mile an hour, or it's a split finger, or it's a slider or a knuckle curve that's coming at you. Ask Zach Gallen last night from the Arizona Diamondbacks, if he was afraid of the torpedo bats, because he was toying with the Yankee lineup, like a little leaguer, like a big leaguer against kids in high school last night. So It really always will come down to the hand-eye, see the ball, hit the ball. Now, does the contact affect the exit velocity maybe? Or, a fly ball going to carry a couple more feet because you hit it on the new sweet spot? That remains to be seen, but nobody would have even known anything about this if my cohort, Michael K., and our TV crew at Yes hadn't have brought it up over the weekend while the Yankees were pounding the heck out of Nestor Cortez.
Has anybody talked to Michael about that and said, like, hey, bro, not cool, dude?
I don't know. You know what? I'm going to ask him when I see him at the ballpark later on tonight if he's gotten any backlash from it. But, the story's out, so it's not a secret. If it was a secret at some point, it's not a secret anymore. Lenny, the guy that developed the bat and the whole concept behind it, is now working for the Miami Marlins. So let's see how it affects, a very weak lineup compared to the Yankees anyway that they have in South Florida. So if you see a bunch of young kids with, high 290s and 300 batting average with power, then maybe there's something more to it. But we'll see. Like I said, they've been bats evolve, as you know, Ricky. Bats have evolved over the years in different ways. You hollow out the top of it, you thin out the handle, basically a toothpick. As long as it's within the rules, and this was approved by Major League Baseball, so there's nothing nefarious about this. As long as it's within the rules, there have been bat changes and the evolution of what we swing in baseball for years. This is the latest trend, the torpedo bat. We'll see how far this thing goes. I don't know if Ohtani hit the walk-off last night with a torpedo bat, an Ohtani bat, who knows? You still have to be a good hitter, make solid contact. That's number one. It's always going to be the basis to hit 300 or to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Ricky, I was thinking the other day, Barry Bonds circa about 2001 with a torpedo bat. And then I just had an involuntary shiver. Yeah, I don't know. That would have been the perfect storm right there. I'll tell you a guy who's not using the torpedo bat and apparently doesn't need it is Aaron Judge. I mean, my goodness, the great Yankee himself is out of the gate, strong as ever. I saw an article asking the question, is Aaron Judge the greatest right-handed hitter ever? And my initial reaction, was just like, come on. And then I started thinking about it. Peak level performance, right-handed batters. He might have an argument. How much of a pleasure is it to be able to watch prime Aaron Judge every day and to get to call his at-bats?
It's probably the most special part of my job, to tell you the God's honest truth. Not just because of the at-bats, the talent that he has, but who Aaron Judge is. This guy is a gentleman. He is a joy to be around. As big a star as he is the same guy that walked into the Yankee clubhouse in spring training back however many years ago it was as a spring training invitee, whose eyes were wide open being amongst all the big Yankee stars. He hasn't changed a bit. He's got tremendous parents, a great wife. Now he's got a baby. He's now a family man. He's a multi-millionaire, and it hasn't changed him one iota. And that is the beauty of number 99. He is the same guy, whether he strikes out last night, Zach Gallen made him look silly. Okay. And he is the same guy post-game, and he'll be the same guy today than he was, the day before. Is he the greatest right-handed hitter? Look, you and I have seen a lot of great right-handed hitters in our day, starting with, my youth memories of Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and, them in later years, guys like Manny Ramirez, Albert Pujols, dare I say, Albert Bell, one of the best right-handed hitters that I've ever seen. So there've been a bunch of them, but Aaron Judge has to be considered in the conversation. Now, he's still, in mid-flight as far as his career is concerned. There's still a lot of upside. I think this hot start that you mentioned, the 3-homer game already being in double digits and runs batted in, and we're just starting the month of April. Remember, last year he ended up with 58 home runs. He didn't even get hot until the end of April into the beginning of May. He took the first 4 or 5 weeks just to get his stroke and get his timing down. So if he's come out of the gate this year hitting like this, albeit last night was the complete opposite because of the dominance of Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, another tough right-hander tonight for the Diamondbacks, so we'll see. But if he's come out of the gate like this, then Rickie, I tell you what, maybe that 62 that he put up a couple of years ago, that might be in range this season.
All right, Rickie, let's turn and look at football. I got to get one NFL question here for you. Of course, the league getting together and discussing the tush push. The Packers put forth the proposal that the tush push needs to go. It looks like it had some support. We're hearing 16 teams is the number that I saw. So they've tabled it for now. Do you think that the tush push is going to survive this off season? And what do you think the future holds here for this weapon that they're telling us that, oh my gosh, it needs to go. It's such a bad thing. And yet you guys still are the only organization who seems to have perfected it. The Bills and Josh Allen have done some good things with it, but I don't know. It feels like we're penalizing the Philadelphia Eagles here potentially just for doing something particularly well. Your thoughts, Rickie?
I agree. Look, the Eagles have the best offensive line in football. They've had it for the past few years with the anchors of Lane Johnson on the right and Jordan Mailata on the left. And at the beginning of the 2024 season, when we had, Jason Kelce retiring, it took a while for the tush push to regain its effectiveness. First couple of weeks of this past season, the tush push was not as effective when we had the new center in and not Kelce. I thought Kelce was the guy right up the middle that got very, very low, and then here came the push from both sides, and then Dallas Goedert usually is the guy that pushes the tush, per se, and to get Jalen Hurts the yard and a half, whatever it might be that they need for either a first down or at the goal line. But they worked on it. By week 3, week 4, that thing was just as effective as it was prior to Jason Kelce retiring. The mere fact that the Eagles can do this better than anybody else, that should not be any reason why they should outlaw this. Now, I will tell you this, Rickie. Every year, this got brought up at the meetings last season. If I'm not mistaken, it may have been at least whispered about 2 years ago about banning the tush push. Slowly but surely, it seems to be gaining momentum. Maybe last year, if they got 9 or 10 votes, this year, the rumor, as you heard, and I've heard also 16 votes. So this season, I don't think they'll have enough, even by tabling. I don't know who, they're going to change as many minds. I think they need to get to 24 at 75%, to make the change. I don't think they will get to it this season, maybe not even next season if it's again brought up, and there'll be some team that'll make the petition again. But eventually down the line, it'll probably be outlawed. Hopefully by then I've got more rings on the fingers. Got one coming here soon, and I got one from 2018. But we'll have more jewelry. We'll have more championships. And by that time, if the Eagle offensive line maybe is not as good as the one that we have now, then so be it. But for now, tough. We just do it better than everybody else. That's all it is. It's petty jealousy. Keep the tush push. Don't touch it.
There you have it. Emphatic words from Rickie Ricardo. Rickie, always a pleasure to have you on, my brother. We thank you for making some time for us.
Anytime, Rickie.
Let's go ahead and promote this sucker one more time. The Rickie Cobb Show invades Wrigleyville tomorrow, 10 a.m. at Roadhouse 66. It is a great place. We are thrilled to be there. And it'll be just a few hours before first pitch for the Chicago Cubs home opener at Wrigley Field. And Fergie Jenkins will be there live and in person, face to face. I'll be interviewing Fergie, so come out, see me, see an authentic Major League Baseball great. Then make your way over to Wrigley Field to see the Cubs play the first of 81 this year at the granddaddy of them all, as far as I'm concerned. I know it's a couple of years younger than Fenway Park, but Wrigley field, historic day all the way around. And we hope that we'll see you there.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.